Hi everyone, I'm Jason Hayes, Product Manager for Trimble RealWorks, and in today's video we're going to take a look at what's new in version 11.2. Now a big part of this release is support for the Trimble X7 3D laser scanner and perspective software. But that's not it. In addition, we have brand new features and enhancements, including our first ever tool making true use of artificial intelligence. So let's take a look at what's new in Trimble RealWorks version 11.2. So I'm going to start off right away with importing some Trimble X7 data. This is a file that was exported from Trimble Perspective. I'm just going to grab this TDX file and drag it onto the desktop. And I'm just going to minimize that. There's a dialog telling me I need to save it as a RealWorks project. I'm just going to click OK. And then just click Save to save that as a RealWorks project. Now the next thing I'm going to see is the TDX processing dialog. I'm going to sample these points by a step of 1. That's going to bring in all of the points. And I also have the option to generate panorama images, JPEGs, of each station. So I'm going to do that and click Start. Now the processing does take a little bit of time, so we're just going to fast forward here to the end of the process. And once that's finished, then we'll see all of the JPEGs that have been created. This is for each station, and it's a panorama image. Just going to click on a nice one here to look at. Let's look at this one. And then you can see it. That's the JPEG created from all of the images captured on the X7. So I'm just going to close a few of these windows. You can see there the progress took about 34 minutes to process the project. And in that, any images that haven't been stitched, or if the point cloud hasn't been colorized in perspective already, it's going to be doing that at the same time it's extracting the points. So we can see the point cloud here is in fact been colorized. Now if I look over here on the left hand side in the workspace, you'll see 3 registration groups. Now if we jump into perspective for just a minute, this is the perspective software, you can see all of the stations and the point cloud, but over on the right hand side you'll see the station list. Now I can change that view to show registration sets. Inside each of those sets is a group of stations that have been registered together. You can see there's 11 stations in the first one, 6 stations in registration set 2, and 2 stations in registration set 3. Now if we go back and look in RealWorks, those are the same 3 registration sets right there. So what I'm doing now is just looking at each registration set individually. So there's 1, let's take a look at reg set 3. Now, I don't have to look at them just independently. I could also go in and add reg set 2 just by right-clicking and saying Display Cloud. I can see how the 2 look together. Now, they look really good here. In fact, Perspective probably registered them automatically in the field, but I must have seen something I didn't like. So in that case, I left them as 3 registration sets that I could come in and look at them here in RealWorks and register them in a traditional way I normally would in RealWorks. Now, in addition to registration sets, we've also added the concept of station labels. So you can see here station 27 has the label of Gregory Street, and if I go up here I can also search for everything that has Gregory Street in it. So I'm using the find button. This has been here for quite a while. I just need to go in and change the type to station. It's down here towards the bottom. There it is, station, and then I need to change the search in to the type of label. Once I do that, then I just need to go in and type in the name of the text that I want to find. I'm just going to type Gregory. I don't need to add street, and then click find. So you can see it found 4 stations that have this label. In fact, station 24 has 2 labels. It's got Spring Street and Gregory Street. And if I look at stations 26 and 27, they both have the label of Gregory Street as well. Now from the found group, I can select 1 or more stations, right click, and then choose view only this, and then I can see only the stations that are on that street or, for example, on that floor. So you can see how it would make it very easy to go in and do registration. We can just show the stations on a certain floor or certain rooms of a building. So if we look here, we can see we're actually on Gregory Street. And when I select station or stations in the found group, they're also selected over here in the workspace. So again, you can see how it'd be very useful when doing registration, being able to quickly find stations that are associated with a certain floor or a certain street. And to be clear, the labels don't have to come from Trimble Perspective. You can just go into any station, go into the properties, and add the labels in that row. Now let's take a look at annotations. Annotations can be added to the X7 scans using the Perspective software and the tablet in the field. So you just tap on the scan position of the object to create the annotation, and then you use the camera on the tablet to take a photo, like you see here in the preview. Now if I come down here to the properties, I can make the window bigger to see the photo, a little bit larger, and I can also see the name, fire hydrant, for this annotation. Now if I come over here and look for another annotation, let's find a utility. Here's one. So in the photo you can clearly see it's an electric box, but if I look at the name, it's utility, and it also has the description of electric box. Now I have to say the annotations are probably one of my favorite new features, in that they're so useful that somebody using Perspective software in the field can add those annotations right there while they're looking at the object. So there's no question about where they are or even what they are, making it a lot easier and saving a lot of time for the person back in the office doing the modeling or the line drawing. So you can see here I can right click on any of the annotations to display the title bar or the full content, and then I can move these annotations where I want just by clicking on the title bar and dragging them where I want them to be. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about the X7 with Perspective software and how that data goes into RealWorks, but the annotations aren't specific to the Perspective. You can find this annotation tool under the Home tab, and I have the ability, just like in Perspective, to go and find a point in the point cloud. For example, let's go look here at Gregory Street again. I'm just going to click on the sign, and I've created the location now. I'm going to give it a name. We're just going to call it street sign for the name, and then in the description I'm just going to type in Gregory Street. And once I've typed that in, I can choose an image, either one that's already been imported into the RealWorks project, or I can browse to a folder and find a JPEG and use that for the image on my annotation. So in this case I've got one from my mobile phone. Just going to click import and create. So now I've got my new annotation, and it's got the image from my mobile phone on it. So you can see the mobile phone there in the preview. And also if I look over here in the workspace, I'll see my new annotation. Again, remember to look under the new annotations tab to find these annotations. And also remember that you can right click on the annotation to hide or display different things. And when you want to see your scan data, make sure you go back to the Scan tab in the workspace. Alright, this next feature has been requested quite a bit, and that's the ability to import an IFC model. So I've got one right here. I'm just going to drag and drop it onto the desktop. It's going to import fairly quickly. And then I'm just going to open this folder. You can see that it's imported all of the objects and converted them into a mesh object. So I'm just going to select all of them and display them, and we can't see them, so I'm going to double tap on the screen to zoom extents, and there is our project. So that looks pretty good, and as is always the case, I can go and select an individual object, right click on it, and choose view only this to see that individual object. Now I can't see it as far away. I'm going to right click and choose zoom on selection, and there is my support beam. So the great thing about being able to import an IFC is that you can use that design model to compare to the as-built point cloud. So you can see here I've gone through and created an inspection point cloud that I can colorize based on how far away it is from that design IFC model. Now speaking of inspection tools, we've made a number of improvements in 11.2 to speed up the 3D inspection, make it more accurate. We've also enhanced the editor to make editing the color bar much easier and much more intuitive. So if I click here on the Edit Color Bar tool, you can see we've got 3 new presets. The first makes the small values blue, the big ones red. The next one, all of the extremes are going to be red, and the third option is like we already have now. Anything kind of below will be blue and everything above will be red. Now the other nice thing about these presets is the display is dynamic, So as you click on it, you can see the changes. Also down here, we have a new color bar that you can slide the midpoint along. You can put it where you want, and then you can actually move the color range. For example, if you wanted everything over 25 millimeters to show up as red, you can do that very easily now. And in addition to being able to import IFC objects, we also have the ability to select an object and export that selection out as an IFC as well. So here I've just selected an object. I just need to select a coordinate frame and then click on export. Now this next tool is really exciting in that it's using artificial intelligence to go through and automatically segment out still beams from the point cloud. So you can see if I go to the Model tab, use the Auto Beam Extraction, it's going to say my computer meets a few parameters, particularly the video card, and then it's just going to start processing. Now it's going to take a little while, so we're going to fast forward again. So you can see it's finished processing now, and it's just finishing up loading the points that it segmented out. And we can see it's done a pretty good job, but let's change this color from the default yellow to a little bit brighter red, just to contrast with the other points when we turn those on. But it's looking really good so far. Let's go into the 3D view and kind of rotate around out here. You can see it's really done good at finding these steel beams throughout the project. If we come over here and turn on the rest of the point cloud, you'll see all of the points that it had to search through to find these steel beams. And it was in fact a pretty difficult environment. There was a lot of windows, a lot of glass and reflections in this point cloud. Now the great thing is this tool can only get better in future builds as the developers feed it more and more data sets to learn from. And so finally, I'd like to show you some improvements that we've made to the Orthophoto creation tool. We've made improvements that when you create the orthophoto, it's going to use everything on the screen. So all of the points, for example, on this facade, and even other objects such as this measurement that you can see here. So I'm just going to go in and open the Orthophoto tool. You can find it here under the Imaging tab. Just select Ortho Projection. And then once I'm in the tool, I just need to define where this projection plane is going to be. I'm just going to pick 3 points on this building facade. Rotate to the side to make sure I pick the right points. Then I need to define the area that I want to show up in the orthophoto. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle here to include all of the area. Looks pretty good. And then actually I'm going to bump it up on this dragon head. All right, validate that, and then I need to go in and set my resolution. So it looks like I used about 3 millimeters on the last time I created one. That's fine for now. Now before I do this, actually I can click OK. Before I create it, let me just show you. You can choose any of these renderings. I've got True Color now, but you could choose Scan Color or Intensity or Grayscaled. And in addition, you can also go through and select different shading. For example, here's no shading, and here's with the ambient shading, and then finally with the better enhanced ambient shading. So I'm just going to go ahead now and click Create to create the orthophoto. You can see the processing in the lower left. It's going to take a minute, so I'm just going to fast forward this. Okay, so the orthophoto's been created. That's just the point cloud. I'm going to close the tool, and then I'm just going to go over here and actually I need to hide everything on the screen. Let's just hide it all, and then we'll open our orthophoto so you can see just that. You can see it turned out very nice. It looks very representative of what we had on the screen, and it's including the measurement there as well. You can also do a quick check just to make sure that the orthophoto measurement matches up with what I had on there. Gives you a nice warm fuzzy feeling when everything matches up. So these have been just a few of the highlights of Trimble RealWorks version 11.2. For a complete list of all the new features and enhancements, take a look at the release notes on Trimble.com. You can click on the link below. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch today's video, and as usual, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for watching.